Throughout the continental United States, there is a gathering of our automotive history. Most of you will not get to see or experience these icons of our youth, but I will, and I want to take you along with me on this wonderful journey. This is your time to connect with your automotive past. These vehicles and people are real. Many people have experienced a love affair with cars, the same as I have, and that's what this series is all about. We will also feature cars at a Wednesday night cruise. For the last 5 years, we have been collecting the video necessary to bring you some of the most beautiful classic, custom, and antique automobiles we can find. People have been the center point of the series because whenever you talk about restored cars, you must put a face of a human being with it. Therefore, we have attempted to, and I believe succeeded, in presenting in this classic car series, preserving a precious part of our automotive history. On this week's show, we'll be looking at a pristine original 1957 Chevrolet with a great story. We'll see a 1991 rare GT 928 Porsche, and a trip to Owl's Head Transportation Museum to see Clara Bow's Packard. So don't go away.
Be right back.
The nicest 1957 Bel Airs you'll ever see, and it's owned by one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Let's take a look. We came across this 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air.
Right.
And then we came across the owner of that Bel Air. I want to introduce you to Chris. Last name?
Ibergen.
This is a 15-year-old restoration on that car?
Just about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And again, the people are taking a look at it as we're talking. That's excellent for you. Must not. You don't go anywhere with it, though, do you?
We go to. Well, let's put it this way. You know, if it starts to get a drip of rain, that car
is inside.
It's like the cow to the barn.
Yeah.
And it goes.
Yeah.
Really. No snow, no ice. That's it.
That's why it's a 15-year-old restoration, and it looks like it does.
And it's all done.
Yeah.
It's all the frame is done. Everything's done on it.
Okay, let me ask you a question now. This is a. Would you do this again? Would you do that again with what you're looking at right
Yes,
now?
I definitely would. It's the enjoyment that you get out of putting the car together.
Yep.
You know it from the nuts and bolts.
That's right.
And everything about it.
That's right.
Once you get it apart, it's like the old days when you were a kid and you took a Mickey Mouse watch apart, and then you forgot how to put it back together.
Yeah.
But this here, if you kept your parts together, which we try to, and a lot of times you miss a bolt, you miss this, you miss that, but you're trying your best to get it all back into original shape.
Well, the reason I ask is because I've got a 57 and I'd like you to do mine. No, just kidding.
I can be bought.
No, but I do want to say this to you and to your wife. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
For putting a piece of our history back together, bringing it back from possibly ruin. You got a hold of it, you brought it back, it's sitting right there, and it'll probably look like that long after both of us are gone because of what you did.
Well, it's the pride.
So thank you.
It's the pride that you put in anything like this here. You know, you know, I look at a lot of vehicles out there, and I enjoy looking at other vehicles and other hard working that people have done. So there's a lot of pride in these things here. So you can understand what everybody went through for all that time, how much sacrifice.
Sure.
You know, everybody has time, don't have enough money.
And we'll be right back.
Can you imagine having a car sit for 10 or 12 years that looks like that, and just not taking it out to drive even on a Sunday afternoon, you realize there were only a couple of thousand of these actually made.
387 were brought into North America, and only 145 in 1991 were GTs.
See? You know that stuff.
I know all that stuff. I own my silver one for 16 years.
Welcome back, and we have something really special going to be taking place with this particular segment. I had the opportunity to go to a car show in Old Orchard Beach, which is where I live, and it's a rather large car show. And while I was at this show, I saw this glow in the sky, and I just kind of cavitated over toward the glow in the sky, and I realized what it was. It was a Porsche, a red Porsche, probably the classic Porsche that you would think of when you say, gee, I'd like to have a Porsche. And the gentleman that owns it is sitting right here. I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
My name is Robert Voskian. We have a summer place up here in Maine, and we spend a lot of time up here.
Where did this car come from? I mean, I know you didn't wake up one morning and say, gee, you know what? I'm going to go and buy that car.
Well, I've owned a Porsche 928 for 16 years, 1989.
This
it's
one?
A silver one. No,
It's a silver one. So
And,
you have two.
Yes, I've owned a 1989 Porsche 928, the silver one, since 1996, and I enjoy the car. I love the car, and I put about 5,000-6,000 miles a year on it. And it's a car that I figured I would just have forever. And I happened to be at a car show at a Porsche dealership beginning of July down in Stratham, and I met the sales manager there who I've known for years. And he mentioned, do I have my 928 there? And I was the only 928 at the show. And he said one of his customers was going to bring one by. So I asked him what model. And he said, well, it's a 1991 GT, which right away I knew was one of the rarer ones. And he said, and he's thinking of selling it. So this turned into the biggest impulse buy I've ever made.
An impulse buy on a Porsche. That is a definite oxymoron, but go ahead. I completely understand looking at it.
He introduced me to the owner of the car, and the owner of the car actually has a large collection of cars, inclusive of Corvettes, Porsches, muscle cars out of the 60s, European foreign cars, Ferraris, and a lot of motorcycles, and he was thinning the herd. So I talked to him about it, and he said he wanted to sell this, and it hadn't been driven in almost 10 or 12 years. It's been sitting in his collection in a climate-controlled, very nice garage, and he was about to part with it. So I said I would love to come down and take a look at it and see if we could make a deal.
Can you imagine having a car sit for 10 or 12 years that looks like that, and just not taking it out to drive even on a Sunday afternoon to... I can't. To me, I can't.
To me, it's unimaginable. My 1989, I bought off of an original owner. It had 23,000 miles, and I've driven it. I now have 98,000 miles on that.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
When I heard that this only had 24,000 miles on it, that got me even more excited, because you just don't come across barn finds these days, low mileage cars, especially ones like this. And I plan on driving it.
Right. Well, I can tell. You're here. And you were at the show. Okay. Stats on this thing. First of all, this is a 1991. The first year for this style, this design was?
Introduced in 1977 as a 1978 model.
Okay. That's when the design came. Now, I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an aficionado on these, you are, is they had run the gambit with the 911. They were having trouble trying to figure out, now, how can we restyle the 911? I mean, they had just really run it. They needed something to boost sales. They went to the drawing board for this. They couldn't put the engine in the back on this thing because, and again, correct me if I'm wrong from what I've understood and heard people talk about. That's what I'm going on right now. They couldn't because of the cooling aspect, so they decided they were going to put the engine up front, which was different for Porsche. When they introduced it, it was the fastest production automobile you could buy off the showroom floor.
Well, that actually was in 1987 when they did a minor design change with the front and rear fascias,
Right.
and went to a 5-liter 4-valve per cylinder overhead cam engine. They took a stock 1987 car, much like this, to Bonneville Salt Flats, and they ran it 171 miles an hour. Al Holbrook. And at that point in time, it was the fastest production car you could buy off the show floor.
Wow. So, they had a winner. They knew they did. And the design. This is something else that amazes me about Porsche. Porsche can come up with a design and nobody questions it year after year after year. Yeah.
Just evolution instead of
Right.
revolution.
Revolution. Ooh, I like that. Evolution rather than revolution. I like that. I like that very much. What would something like this cost?
In 1991, this car new was $82,000 list price.
Wow. Okay.
So it was the flagship of the Porsche line. Again, it was originally designed to be a replacement for the 911, but over years it never did reach that goal. But that a combination of what it entails from a motor, interior options, as well as at the time the Deutschmark to US dollar, these got very expensive.
Right.
In 95, they were going for $100,000.
Wow. Wow. That was a lot of money in 95. Hell, it's a lot of money now. You going to keep it?
No, I can't drive two of them. That's the problem.
And you're not getting rid of the one you had for 16 years?
No, I'll probably sell that one and keep this one, and I'm just going to be driving this one. I probably in 10 years it'll look the same way, but it'll probably have another 50, 60,000 miles on
Oh,
it.
wow, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, my friend, you got people that'll come behind you with, and pick this up after you're ready, after you're through with it, right? You've got your daughter or somebody's going to get this.
They all want it now.
Oh, well, you told them it'll be a little while, right?
It'll be a little while.
Yeah, another 30, 40, 50 years.
Yes.
I just want to thank you for bringing it. I want to thank you for preserving a piece of automotive history.
Oh.
And that's exactly what we've got sitting there.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Get ready for a very special show at a very special museum in Maine and with some very special people. Welcome to the Owl's Head Transportation Museum.
Yeah, my name is Warren Kincaid. I'm the ground vehicle conservator here at the Owl's Head Transportation Museum. I take care of all vehicles non-aircraft related. Automobiles, motorcycles, bicycles.
So this particular car would be under your purview, making sure that it runs, that it stays in the shape it's in. How did it come in? Did it come in like this? Or?
It basically did. This car was out in the Cars for the Stars Museum out in California. And it was bought by one of our benefactors a number of years ago and donated to this museum.
Wow. And it came in pretty much like it is. But as with any vehicle, you understand that there's no such thing as something staying like it is. It ages under your nose. You have got to keep maintenance. You've got to stay on top of it. And that's what Warren does with all of the vehicles. Now, Clairbeau, as we said earlier, was a movie star in the silent film industry. Why would she own something like that? Would she drive this, or would she be sitting back there?
I think, knowing a little about Clara Bow, I think she probably drove this car.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's a complicated car to drive.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah, you've
Yep.
got
All sorts of controls.
controls on the steering wheel there. And,
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, she bought this car new. Actually, it was bought for her by her then boyfriend. It was $17,500.
Really?
And that's huge money. She bought it in 1930.
I'll give you 18 for it right now.
I'll bet you would.
Probably ain't gonna happen. Huh?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Clara had to have some muscle.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I think she was feisty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, again, we'll never know. We don't know what she sounded like.
Well, she's a Brooklyn girl, I think.
Oh, really?
That would make her feisty.
That would make her feisty.
Yeah.
You hear that, Brooklyn guys? Feisty girls in Brooklyn. How many vehicles have you got?
For ground vehicles, including the ones that are in storage, about 50.
Now, your shop is right over there.
Yes.
When people come here to take the tour and see the things in here, are they able to go and see in your shop what you're doing?
They certainly can. If the door's closed, they can knock on it, and I'll give them the grand tour. We're open to the public. There's very few rooms in the museum that aren't open to the public.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. This is a transportation museum, so everything in here moves, goes down the road. It's not just pretty.
Right.
Now, I understand that you also put cars back together.
Yeah, we've restored a few cars here at the museum. This depot hack we're sitting next to is a museum restoration. The bus that's behind us is a museum workshop restoration, all done by volunteers. Yeah, our founding premise, right in our the original write-ups of the museum was this would be an operating and active museum where we would, as well as display vehicles, we would operate them, fly the planes, drive the cars, so everybody gets a real-time sense of the history.
So, with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that I am sitting in Clara Bow's car with Warren.
And we'll be right back.
Now for a little commentary on this show. This is the greatest hobby in the world with the greatest people in the world. We just watched complete opposites in style, size, cost when new, and engineering. Plus. However, instead of looking at the differences, let's look at the similarities. We'll start with they both are icons in the classic automotive hobby. They both started out life designed for a specific automotive demographic, which, by the way, were at opposite ends of the spectrum. But most of all, they ended up a primary example of what this hobby is all about.
And we'll be right back.
We invite you to Motorland in Arundel, Maine, and the Maine Classic Car Museum. On behalf of Miles, Tom, Tim, Phil, and Brandon, we would like to thank you for watching our show. Our web address is motorlandtvnetwork.com. See you next week.